I'd like to call to order the Pentucket Regional School Committee meeting on May 7th, 2019. I'd like to roll call. Wayne Adams, yes. Joanna Blanchard, not at this time, but she will be with us next week. Bill Buell.
Here.
Emily Dwyer.
Here.
Marie Falzani.
Here.
Dick Hodges.
Here.
Lisa O'Connor.
Here.
Chris Redding.
Here.
Dina Trotta.
Here.
Okay, thank you very much. And let's stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. And we've got a lot going on tonight. Big night. Celebrate as well. So, first thing we're going to tackle is our minutes from the Business and Finance Subcommittee, April 23rd, 2019. Do I have excuse me, let's do the agenda first. Have I got a motion on the floor to accept the agenda as it stands?
So moved.
Second. All those for? Opposed? Passes. Now let's take a look at the minutes. The Business and Finance Subcommittee, April 23rd, 2019. I have a motion on the floor.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Discussion. All those in favor? Opposed? Okay. And the minutes, business meeting, April 23rd, 2019. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second. Discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? All right. I'm going to follow Dick Hodges on this from earlier on in the year. I'm going to do the first public comment, and then I'll pass it on to you people. First off, Joanna Blanchard isn't with us tonight, but she won the write-in campaign in Merrimack. She has spoken to them, and she has agreed to stay on board with us. Not necessarily permanently, but until her services are no longer needed. So that's great news, and I'm glad to be able to say that. The rest of my spiel, please bear with me. It'll take probably 10, 12 minutes. And I apologize if I miss somebody, because this is critical, because what happened last night after 8 o'clock was just phenomenal for our community. So a lot of people deserve a lot of credit, and there's a lot of people out there that aren't going to be named, but it's just incredible that it went through overwhelmingly, and a lot of people deserve it. So first, congratulations to our community of those 3 towns. There was a ton of positive social media comments, and coming from a lot of different sources that helped promote the project, all of which aided tremendously, and I was always getting feedback on that. The letters to the editors, the Newburyport News and other papers, they were kind enough to print a lot of them, and most all of them were favorable. From Irene Thomas to Andy Murphy to Tom Flaherty and many, many others, writing quite eloquently, explaining the situation, detailing it in a concise manner that was easily understood by the community and very helpful. So I thank them. We got to quickly thank Brad and Jason from Dawn Whittier and their associates. There are architects, and John Lemieux, our owner's project manager from Vertex, and his associates. We got to thank the school committee and the building committee, both, for all these step-by-step things with the MSBA that was brought to you on a probably bi-monthly manner for you to make decisions that let this go through in a very positive, smooth fashion. So kudos both to the school committee and the building committee. Ben Beaulieu. great debt of gratitude toward you. You jumped right in. I mean, this is a situation you said, well, I'm part of it, and I'm going to do my best. I saw him carrying signs, I saw him at the polling. Everything he does now is centered for the betterment of Pentucket Regional High School, so I commend you, Ben. Thank you very much. The working group, really glad to see you there. Most everybody probably knows every Thursday we meet for a minimum of 2 hours plus, trying to come out with the details from the MSBA to bring back to the building committee and try to sort through the things that are necessary and what everybody needed to hear and to make decisions on, keep people well informed. Well, we had a great working group, and starting with Ken Kelly, our middle school principal. Ken is every week. People don't see what's done by him, and that's at his own school, getting the input from his staff and the input from the people there that are going to fine-tune the project to the betterment of our students. So thank you, Ken. And Greg Haddon, our facilities director, the gentleman sitting to Ken's left, with a stoic face. He's not always that stoic. We've been kidding him. He's getting ready for December 25th, and I applaud you. Big day, the 25th. But Greg, being the facilities director, he really came in and held our architects to bay. This is what we need for longevity, for keeping things so we can take care of it for the next 50-plus years. And those weren't the only things he did. He pointed out a number of things that certainly I had no clue of that enable us to make better decisions on what that project's going to be like and how long it's going to last, etc. Thank you, Greg. And Greg LeBret, he's not only a comedian, but he's our business manager, and he doesn't work strictly with finance. You should come to the meetings and watch him at his best. He keeps the smiles on our faces, but nobody realizes he has to be the communicator between the MSBA, superintendent, and Mary Ann, as well as the architect, and it takes a big piece of his time, and probably no one, including myself, knows exactly how much time that goes into it, so thank you very much, Greg, in above the work you already do for Pentucket. Thank you. And that brings me to Justin Bartholomew, our superintendent, who's not going to probably say too much tonight, and that's very unusual. He's not feeling very well, and he might want to get back at me so he'll breathe on me, but he's not feeling well tonight. A year ago we took over, not quite a year ago. He's still only 9 months, I guess. I can't think of a better man for the job. I didn't even vote for him, and I made a huge mistake. He took over for Jeff Mulqueen, and talking to Jeff last night, the first thing he wanted to say to all of you is congratulations to you people. You did a great job to push this forward. And I bragged to him about Justin. I had said that as much as I thought Jeff Mulqueen was the man for the job to start the statement of interest, carrying it through with the MSBA and all that drudgery paperwork, working with others to get that done so the MSBA would select us to be one of those, as you people put on your note, 19 of 96 applicants. I don't know that it was perfect timing to bring Dr. Bartholomew on. With his youthful vim and vigor and his vested interest he has in Pentucket. He keeps telling me that he bleeds green, and I'm going to ask him to prove it sometime. I think probably he's convinced me. If we cut him right now, he probably does bleed green. He goes to elderly projects, from assisted living, he goes into homes, he goes to the, any place asked, and more so. And I assure you, he couldn't do all those things at all without Mary Ann Naffa. She's stuck by his side. keeping him straight, and I don't know how anybody could keep straight with it, with what he had on the docket. And Mary Ann, I gotta tell you, what a job you've done doing so. And it's very evident in that most places he did indeed get to, whether there was 3 people or 150. It's a long race. We're only going to get started now. Well, for what part of the race that took place, Jeff Mulqueen starting us off with you taking the baton, the final leg, perfect for the Pentucket community, and I applaud you. Thank you. This brings us to one more in the working group that rarely gets acknowledged for what he does behind the scenes, only because it's easily said that somebody was wonderful, they're great, they're fantastic, awesome. These are all flower terms. People use them in literature that are kind of meaningless. Well, I can assure you with Jonathan Seymour, our high school principal, Jeff Mulqueen told me way back 7 years ago when nobody was on his side saying we need a building project. He said we need a person in charge. If we can get into this, so I'm going to see if I can't finagle Jonathan Seymour to be the building committee chairperson. And I'll be down, we're right here that night, and somebody nominated him. I know Glenn Kemper turned to me and said, Wayne, is he going to be okay? And I think I said at the time, he's going to be more than okay. I felt bad for him. He was foolish enough to accept it. I'm not sure he knew what he was getting into, but what he did, he gave himself another full-time job. And I don't know if very many of us know what it's like to have a second full-time job when there's been absolutely no monetary compensation for it. Nothing but he's a Pentucket person. If I didn't know better, I think we should probably go draw some blood. Yeah. He might be green as well, even though he's not from this community. Jonathan Seymour, for all the accolades that you don't get and that you deserve, I've got to thank you for the school committee and the community for a super job you've done up to this point, and the bad news is you're not done. Okay? Thank you very much, Jonathan Seymour. Then back to that same conversation. Jeff Mulqueen was a little hesitant. He says, I don't know if it could pass, and probably in Merrimack because of the dynamics. We're going to give it our best shot, but it will not go through without a community-based effort, a grassroots effort. And that's when Dawn and Whittier said, don't get started, don't get started. We'll hold on the reins 3 months before. He said, typically looking at other projects, 3 months. Don't get out there, waste all your energy. And I made a mistake at the time. I wanted Dina to jump in a year in advance, and I would have been mistaken. So, we are Pentucket formed thanks to several people, and definitely needs public acknowledgement. I would like to read the names and where you're from, and if you are here, I would like you to stand up. The camera is on you, so smile and look your best, because it's on you now. So, Julie Teresi, Rachel Jones, Nancy Stewart, Shikes, Joey Tewksbury, all from West Newbury. From Groveland, from We Are Pentucket, who helped make this happen, is Caitlin Stokes, Janet Cena.
Did you say that?
See, she keeps not only Justin in line, she keeps me in line too. She noticed when I went through West Newbury, Ashley Davis sitting there, and that I didn't see it. I'm sorry, Ashley Davis. Rebecca Groveland, Caitlin Stokes, and Janet Cena. From Merrimack, we had Marilyn Judson, Megan Marlowe, Chris Manny, and Lindsay Goff.
And Julie Wisniewski. Julie Wisniewski.
Oh,
She was from Merrimack.
okay. And you can say it a little louder, please.
Julie Wisniewski.
Julie Winooski. Okay, and I'm sorry again. And I'm glad Dina spoke up because way back in joining them, we needed a liaison, somebody to help lead the charge, but a liaison between We Are Pentucket and the working group, so everything went through to all of us in a manner that everybody's on the same page. And that is our communications chair, our own Dina Trotter. Thank you. What you guys did for the Pentucket community was phenomenal. I use that term, but I'm dead serious. From those two mailers, I actually taught a course in layout and design and publication. They were fantastic. To the point, concise. If you didn't know what you were doing going in before getting that, you know what a yes and a no were, and what would be a problem or maybe a success one way or the other. What a great job. The calling today to get people to don't forget to vote all week long, carrying signs. And I think Justin tells me a lot of young regional kids are out there on the day of the vote, out on the lane, trying to convince people to have the vote happen. I can assure you, it happened in Amesbury and many of the other communities. It wouldn't have happened if it weren't for people like you and We Are Pentucket. That was fantastic. Now, Julie, you're not off the hook. I would like you to step up to the mic and say a couple of words on behalf of We Are Pentucket. Thank you.
So I just want to say thank you to the school committee, the building committee, and the administration for all of your efforts to get this building project started 4 years ago, and the continued support and tireless work that brings us here today. It was our pleasure to work on this, and we're very happy with the results. Thank you also to all of our volunteers from We Are Pentucket. Their enthusiasm, excitement, and willingness to go the extra mile made this group work and succeed. We appreciate your time and commitment. Our goal was to educate voters across the Pentucket Regional School District on the need for funding for construction for a new middle school and high school building, but we also wanted to bring the three communities together. This truly was a community effort from Merrimack, Groveland, and West Newbury, and we thank the residents who attended meetings and forums, asked great questions, and got the information they needed in order to support the new building project. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much again. And I probably prevaricated or lied to you. I said I'd take 10 minutes. I took a little more. I apologize because I'm supposed to allow only 5 minutes. Is that right, Mr. Buell?
Well, as a point of order, Mr. Chair, you forgot one very important ingredient in your thanks.
Go ahead.
The chair. It was the bridge with all of the groups that you mentioned. You, the chair. You said, damn tired, you don't even know your title. So anyway, on behalf of the committee, I would like to thank you for your service.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Buell.
All the trips into Boston, all the trips and the hours that were spent with the architects, much appreciated.
All enjoyable.
Right.
Let's see. One other thank you to the school committee. Thank you for that kind card that you sent home to me and the very kind words you put down. It wasn't necessary. I tried to prevent Marianne from doing it. For all those who put those nice words, thank you very much. I appreciate it. Now, the public comment continued. So if anybody would like to say something for 5 minutes or less. Would anybody like to say anything at this point? Because you'll have another chance later on. No, Jonathan.
So it's just, it's been a strange day today, right? It's like, did this really happen? You know, like, I think we were just so anticipating this moment, and it, finally came, and last night it was such a relief to just get all that support from the community. I think we're just all so blown away by it, and I think it's just an awesome opportunity for us to kind of get that momentum and continue to do everything we can to improve and make our school system the greatest that it can be, and then as we prepare to move into that building. It's just, I know that there have been so many people that have kind of been a part of this, and it truly was a team effort, a community effort from the We Are Pentucket and all of the people that we work with on a daily basis. Wayne Adams and all of the work that Wayne has done to coordinate and work together and kind of bridge all of these committees. I mean, it's been an awesome opportunity for us to get out and meet so many people in the community. And I just want to say thank you for, the opportunity to be a part of it. And as has been mentioned, there's a lot of work left to be done. This is a benchmark moment, but we really have so many more things to do. And we really need to continue this sort of effort of all working together, the building committee with the school committee, with the staff, with the community. So it's very exciting, and I just want to congratulate the community, the committee, and everybody involved. So thank you.
No one else? Okay, that brings us superintendent news. Will be followed by Ben Bellew and the student rep news.
So, since we've been congratulating everybody, and my voice is gonna come and go. But since we've been congratulating everybody, and Mr. Buell made this point that Mr. Adams has done a fabulous job, and I know for me, this first year, it was nice to have someone who was very passionate about the school system, like we all are, but was there, and we always checked in, making sure I was doing all right. I suspect he would have Mary Ann yell at me from time to time and tell me to go home or do whatever it is. But I wanted to take this minute to thank you, and as a token of our appreciation, I'll give you a little something for serving as the chair this past year. So thank you very much. I really appreciate it. Plus, I'm tired of seeing that outdated gear that you have on. So the second announcement is that this week is Teacher Appreciation Week. Just if anyone's watching this, please write a quick note, support, thanks to your children's teachers or whoever it might be. And where I'm coming out of this was always a big deal. Don't worry, Ms. Naff and I and Mr. Conway have planned something on behalf of the school committee for the teachers, so we'll be taking care of that later this week. But don't let that moment pass. It's a week, it's designated there for a reason, but of all the news people get in a year, there's very little of it. Small windows of positive, quick notes or something like that would be fabulous. Summer hours, so we did agree to go summer hours, went Monday through Thursday, from 7 to 5 is what we're going to do, and on the senior leadership team, if any department had an issue with that, they need to come with me. I know maintenance will be working 5 days a week, starting June 17th and going through August 23rd. We'll be holding schools we'll have schools open Monday through Thursday from 7 to 5. And the only other thing I want to talk about were kind of the next steps on the project, because I think now that the vote's passed, people are going to be sitting out there thinking, what's next? It's a great question. The working group continues to go on every Thursday, and we're trying to get more and more details. There's things that come up that are specific and somewhat complex sometimes, and other times they're easy. But over the next 6 to 8 months, we'll be taking bids. As more and more the project gets designed, more bids will be going out. So that's what's going to happen over the next 6 to 8 months. So in case anybody wants to know, that's where things are at this point. And that's all I have. So I'm going to turn it over now to our student rep and the young man who put together a fabulous video. I really thought that was neat, Ben.
Nothing really new in the community other than the student morale at school today after the vote was very high. I heard a lot of positive feedback from people in the community, especially the teachers and the students as well. They're excited for the project to begin, and I know the whole thing about, oh, we're not going to be here for the school, that's kind of gone away. It's more of a community effort at this point. That's all I have.
Great. Thank you.
New business. Last year was a little different because I already was sitting here, so nobody kind of had to move. This year there will be movement. And I can't remember the positions and the order that we'll be taking our nominations. Anybody want to help me out on that?
I think we do the chair first.
Chair first, there you go. I got the help I was looking for. Do I have any nominations on the floor for the chair? Dick?
I'd like to nominate Lisa O'Connor. She gave us excellent leadership the last time she was chair, and I nominate her this evening.
Does Lisa accept? Thank you, Dick.
Any more nominations? No, there isn't?
There is, I think.
I was waiting for you. I'm going to nominate Emily.
Okay, from Dina, we're nominating Emily. Would you like to say something, Dina?
I think
On her behalf?
Yeah, I think she'd do a great job. And I think it could be her turn.
Any more nominations? We've got one more. No?
Does Emily accept?
Would you accept, Emily?
Yeah, yes.
Hard to discern initially. That's a yes. Okay. Now this is going to bring us to any more discussion before we bring this to a vote. Okay, since Lisa was first nominated, all those who want Lisa O'Connor to be the chair for next year, raise your hand.
Okay, wait a minute now.
You get those?
Yep.
And those who want Emily Dwyer, raise your hand. You can raise just your left.
No, but thanks.
You're not going to vote, Emily?
I'm good, thanks.
Okay. So Lisa wins.
So Lisa, I've warmed the chair up for you tonight. So I'm going to switch and you will continue with the rest of the reorganization. And thank you very much.
Okay.
Well, thank you very much. It's nice to be chair again, so thank you. So the next vote is for the vice chair, and I believe that goes to, is it Westbury?
Yes.
So do we have any nominations for Chris?
I would like to nominate Dina Trotta to be the vice chair.
I second that. I will accept.
Do we have any other nominations for Westbury? Okay, any discussion? Okay, all in favor of Dina being vice chair?
Do I have to move?
No, you don't have to. We used to have the vice
Yeah,
chair
you
sit
should.
next to the chair.
Okay, and the next position, is it secretary or treasurer?
Secretary.
Secretary, do we have so that's Merrimack? So do I have a nomination for somebody from Merrimack for the role of secretary?
I nominate Wayne Adams.
Wayne, do I...
I would
is there a
love to be
second? We need a
secretary,
second?
yes.
Have you seen his handwriting?
That's why.
Is there any other nominations? Okay, seeing none, can we take a vote?
All those in favor of Wayne, perhaps?
All those in favor?
She's a little rusty.
I'm sorry.
Treasurer?
It's
Treasurer.
assistant treasurer.
Assistant treasurer? So does that matter what town that is, or just goes for the entire school?
Doesn't matter.
Okay, so the last position is for assistant treasurer, and that can be a nomination from any of the 3 towns.
I'll nominate Dick Hodges.
Dick, is that something that you'd be interested in doing?
What's the job description and the stipend?
Zero.
There's no stipends.
Just kidding on the stipend.
A hearty handshake.
If the treasurer is unable to sign something, then we call you.
Okay. I'm all in.
Are there any other nominations for assistant treasurer? Okay, all in favor? Okay, well, thank you. The next item on the agenda is the results from the school committee goals. Emily, are you going to speak on that? Wayne? Okay.
These were the results. When I picked these up last time, I made a compilation. According to what Mass wanted us to do, is if there was any huge discrepancy, is to give us a chance to orate why we believed was yes and no. So Emily, I'm going to ask her to, there's 4 school committee goals set forth that we had to evaluate. Emily's going to read each one at a time, and I will tell you after she reads how it came out. Then we'll come back to it and see if there is a discrepancy that somebody wanted to talk about in front of the public. So Emily, could you read communication methods, please?
Communication methods. In an effort to keep the communities of the Pentucket Regional School District, PRSD, informed with factual information about what is happening across the system, and so that the community has the opportunity to make inquiries of PRSD, the school committee, SC, will actively utilize local communication opportunities to inform and hear from their constituents. Such communication will happen at least once a month and include, but are not limited to, Facebook, Twitter, postings in town hall, email, and meet and greets.
All right, the way the vote came out, 3 people thought that we had accomplished those goals. 2 people didn't believe. I'm going to let you quietly sneak out, not call attention.
Thank you.
And thank you again before you leave. You can go celebrate. And 2 people said no, that we didn't do this goal, and 4 of us said it was in progress. Now, it was pretty split there, 3, 2, and 4. Would anybody like to orate right at this time on why they voted the way they did? If not, we'll just move on to the second one. Yes, Dick?
I'm really very much in favor of all 4, but going back to the specific ones, I was looking at the first one that I gave a 3 to, was the committee's policies are clear and up to date. And of course, our subcommittee's working hard, but we're
doing communication right now.
We're only on number 1 right now.
Oh, I got my numbers mixed up, sorry.
No problem.
You're the treasurer?
Yeah,
You're the treasurer.
I didn't bring my calculator.
You know your numbers. Anyone else? Yes.
So if I remember correctly, I said no on this because I felt like we as a committee didn't do much of anything. There was an awful lot of communication going on, whether it's through the superintendent's office, I don't think we necessarily did much of anything. And I think that that's something that we need to be more specific and think thoughtful of in the next year is really how do we want to communicate? Because I think show me what we did. I don't think we did anything. Whereas in the future, I think there needs to be communication from this committee about things other than the building project, about other things that are going on in the district and stuff. So that was my opinion on this. Wayne?
Well, I'll piggyback on that. 6 out of the 9 of us said it's either no or in progress, so several of us feel the same way. All right, let's go on to the second one. Emily, could you read it, please?
Update policies. Bullet 1. By the end of the 2018-2019 school year, the school committee will have reviewed and, where pertinent, updated sections J, G, and C of currently existing district policies with the intent of having all policies policies reviewed and, where necessary, updated by the end of the 2019-2020 school year. Bullet 2, the school committee will support district leadership in the process of developing clear protocols and procedures by August of 2019 so that the PRSD administration has clear and concise guidelines to follow for necessary functions, e.g. human resources, professional development, evaluations, purchasing, etc.
Well, we had 2 yeses, no nos, and 7 in progress. Would anyone like to share with us why they voted?
We are definitely in progress, and I'm very lucky to have the subcommittee members that I have, because we're pretty quick at developing consensus. But it's alarming that we are over a decade behind almost all of the surrounding schools, so we have some catch-up to do. I would also submit that J, G, and C, we're probably going to try to go beyond that if we can, but certainly that's going to be the foundation for where we're starting.
Quick comment, Dick, I think you guys done a great job, but refresh my memory, who works with you? Every time I walk in, you guys are working on policy.
Joanna, Marie, myself, super, assistant super.
Thank you.
Oh, got Lisa right here.
Thank you. Anybody else?
The other thing that we did that might help speed this up is we actually collectively met over at the, I don't know, it's a green room or whatever they call it, over at the middle school one afternoon, and we got a tremendous amount done in a couple hours. Something that would have taken us 3-4 meetings to do, we were able to, and I think we're going to try to schedule that again, and I'll be checking with Dr. B as to his availability as well as Brent's.
All right, Emily?
School Committee Code of Conduct, Review, and Procedures. The Pentucket Regional School District School Committee will review, edit, update, finalize, and make public business meeting and public interaction protocols, procedures, and behaviors by January 2019 so that all current and future school committee members, as well as the public, are aware of school committee roles and responsibilities. This is purposeful so that the school committee can effectively and efficiently address issues in an informed and collaborative manner.
On this objective, 5 said, yes, we've obtained this, and we started off the summer with the state coming in to help us. 2 said no, and 2 said in progress. So it looks like a 5-4 here as far as we're happy where we are, or we're not, we have a ways to go. Is there anybody that would like to comment? Yeah.
2 Marches ago, I had made a suggestion around the budget about eliminating the $10,000 from IB. I was outvoted 8-1 that night, slept like a log, because I'm part of a team, and I've played enough sports, you win some, you lose some. But I didn't go to the newspapers and discuss, boy, can you believe the school committee nailed me tonight? 8-1, and it was on a Marxist career. I could have done all of that. I thought that was inappropriate for anybody that's on a team, and I'm pretty much the kind of person, if I want to talk to you, we'll go nose to nose, and I'll talk directly to you. I don't have to talk through the daily news in Newburyport. So that's why I gave that a 3. That's something we need to be better on.
Would anybody else like to comment? There was no 1, 2, 3, it was just a yes and a no, but you did give it a yes. You actually voted that you think everything right now is fine.
I think we are learning from those kinds of situations, and hopefully I think our relationships can be stronger, because it's a 9-person team. Actually, if you include more, we've actually got 12, 13 here, 14.
Anyone else? Now we're all alone. Would anybody like to express themselves?
Cameras on.
All alone, I'm never alone.
We're never alone, we have cameras.
Oh, I know.
I can never do your job.
My only comment would be, go ahead, Marie.
I don't remember how I voted, but I think it was helpful when we all met in the middle school library and you had the MASC rep come in. I thought a lot of people cleared a lot of things and talked about a lot of things. I think generally we try to respect each other and we learned a lot from that. And 3 of us went down to the Cape and took time out to go to training. So I think we're putting effort in overall. So, I mean, if anything, I'd say in progress, it's always a revolving committee and things come up.
Yes, you did vote yes. And I think we have made improvements and strides, and I think we still have a ways to go, but we've made some good improvements. And so, and a lot of things that I always say, in progress, things always can be better. So, that brings us, if nobody else wants to express themselves, we can go, Emily, to curriculum.
Curriculum. In an effort to provide the optimal learning environment and opportunities in PRSD for all students, especially those with high needs, the school committee will work with district leadership to determine areas where professional development will be most impactful and will make it a point to ensure that the curriculum and PD are meeting the needs of all of our teachers and diverse learners. To do this, by the end of the school year, the school committee will understand the new evaluation system, how state scores are calculated and utilized, and help to decide what approaches to curriculum development and delivery may be most impactful for PRSD students. The school committee will support administration and district leadership in collecting feedback from teachers and staff about PD through feedback forms at the meetings and PD opportunities, and 2 to 3 times a year surveying the teachers on how the PD is impacting their teaching practice.
Okay, on curriculum, we have 4 yeses, 4 in progress, and 1 abstention. Chose not to decide on that. So, total split, 4 and 4. But it's in progress for those 4, so anybody like to express themselves on curriculum?
Which is, I kind of think in progress says it all. We have new curriculums for the elementary schools. They can't be really implemented and evaluated overnight. But the feedback that I'm getting is that we are literally in progress.
That's it, then we're done.
Okay.
This goes into Mary Ann, the votes and the tallies, and from you, Mary Ann, we just need to document that we did it on this day and time.
Thank everybody for taking part in that, sharing your thoughts. The next item on the agenda is updating the superintendent's goals. Up on that?
Sure, thank you, Madam Chair. You have in front of you a copy of just the goals. You can take that, you can review it. What I've done is wrote just a brief narrative on each goal, what's happened. So there's 4 goals and there's 4 narratives. You can take that and look it over. You'll notice overall the summary of it. I've completed goal 1, and then 2, 3, and 4 are all still in progress, mainly because most of those, or 2, 3, and 4, are heavily based on later dates. That's all I've got for you.
Everybody has a copy of it?
Yes.
Everybody hasn't got it.
So the next item on the
No,
agenda.
that's not the end of that. That's only his, oh, I'm sorry, never mind, ignore me.
Yeah.
So the next piece, are you going to talk on the...
I'm actually turning it to Emily because she actually took this
Okay, so
and ran with
superintendent's
it.
evaluation.
So essentially, per the guidelines for superintendent evaluation, we looked at Dr. Bartolomeo's goals and the DESI rubric on superintendent evaluation, determined which sections of the many-page rubric aligned with those goals. Obviously, his goals are clear and smart and therefore have benchmarks of their own, but in that we need to give him a rating of unsatisfactory satisfactory, needs improvement, proficient, or exemplary. We then included the rubrics that have indicators giving you specific information as to where he would fall. So the idea, and I know most of you have done this in the past, however, since we are not required to do it in all sections, we just picked out the sections that match his goals. So you will take ideally his data that he has presented and his evidence, and use the rubrics, which are often on the back of the page because the goals take up most of the page, the sections of the rubric that align with that goal, and you will rate how he's done with those based on the indicators within that rubric. So then we will collect them and collate them and bring it back to them.
So when would,
By the next meeting.
next meeting? Okay.
So like goal 1 on the back are the indicators that we felt aligned with goal 1. So on each page, you'll see that, so it's very identifiable. You don't have to do all, however many there are, a lot of them. And Justin said that he is going to send to all of us his self-evaluation, and the self-evaluation is on the entire rubric.
Mary Ann will send those out to you tomorrow. She's going to scan them in.
Can I ask a question? So are we collecting them on May 21st? Or are we collecting them ahead of that and bringing the results on May 21st?
It's up to the committee. If people think they can get it done in time, like a week to get it to Mary Ann, and then a week we can
Well, the next packet has to be posted on May 15th, which is next Wednesday.
It's
a quick turnaround time. Yeah. So like 3 days to work on it and then a couple of days for you guys to meet to discuss that. And you could do the first Tuesday in June 4th.
So collect it for next time, and then that sounds good.
Okay.
The only thing that may seem a little funny is that section D, 1D specifically, is in 2 different places because that is what lined up with those 2 goals. So you're going to have to collate your own information between those 2. If you'd like to fill them out separately, we can do it, but yes, it's in there twice on purpose.
So you can circle this if you want, or you can just give us a sheet of where you feel he falls, say 1E proficient or whatever.
Scoring sheet?
You could do either, however you want to do it. I also want to remind people, and this is something that when we were at the Cape Cod conference, as exceptional of a job as Justin is doing, we have to remember that our expectations of his job is that he's doing his job. To get to that exemplary category really needs to take evidence that puts him beyond being a proficient superintendent. So, and this is something that I think from when they first put this rubric out, giving people exemplaries should be on occasion and not a lot of the time, so.
And matched with a paragraph?
Yes.
Explaining exactly.
I think when it originally came out, the first time we did the full thing, is you were supposed to have written evidence to put somebody in that category or on the same if you feel he needs improvement or.
That's the key word, evidence.
But you can have exemplary first time out.
You can, but.
I mean, I don't think it should be an automatic check, far to the right and then go all the way down.
And that sometimes has been how it's been done.
But there are certain barometers, for example, in previous administrations at the end of their first year, I can remember 1 or 2 cases where it was actually the opposite, practically if it's 1 through 4, good luck getting a 1, whereas other administrations did deserve the exemplary. And I think that, and I'll say it publicly, I think Dr. Bartholomew in some cases has come, haven't completely read through it, but he's close. So I think that if it merits it, it merits it, and then you just have to explain how.
I agree, but I think what was told to us, and Dina remembers it from last year, is it should be, there shouldn't be many of them. For anybody, and I think, Justin, didn't you say the same thing? They said that at the superintendent's conference recently, too?
There's only 4 standards, right? So,
But also the biggest difference is able to model this element, and there has to be evidence thereof. So in the instance when we have the evidence, right, that's what's great about these rubrics, is they're very clear. Like, it's not my opinion versus Dina's opinion versus Marie's opinion. You can read the indicators, and one of the biggest differences is that sentence, and in many cases, that is the only difference. So should we have the evidence, there you go.
And I think you've done a great job, so I'm just putting it into complex.
Anybody else? So we'll have those all returned at the next business meeting on May 21st. And then the subcommittee will meet, and we'll bring it back to the table for the next school committee meeting on June 4th. The next item on the agenda is the J policies. We have 13 of them to discuss and approve. Anybody like to speak?
Can I make So I sat down to read through all of these, and for a second time in a row, I'm very confused as to, some of them appear to be a new policy, yet we have a policy on the books. Some of them say it's a revision, but I can't find the policy on the website. These ones, I feel that there's a lack of formatting, like bullets and numbers and things, when I was comparing it to the old policies to see what are we changing. So I'm confused by all of that and how we got to where we are with the policies that we're getting today.
I think I can explain that. What I've done is I've gone through the policies here, and particularly in the J's, I would say we are close to being 50% deficient. In other words, other schools have policies. In fact, some of these policies that we're looking at tonight were not even in our book of policies. So what I did is I took the rough draft of the policies that we had. In some cases, if there was a school that had a better written policy, I would scratch our policy, make note of what the previous date was. It might have been 2007, which meant we had that policy, but maybe Newburyport had an upgraded one in 2017, and since we share the same lawyer, that just seemed to make sense, because that lawyer has already approved that language, so why not us? And there were about 4 or 5 different schools. Duxbury, their language was absolutely outstanding, and in some cases better written than ours. As we got closer to, in fact, this evening, we found out that a bunch of the policies that we have in J are just fine, just the way they are. All we have to do is upgrade, change the date for adoption. So as previous adoption is the last time they were adopted at Pentucket, if at all. And if it said none, that meant we did not have that particular adoption or policy. And that's what the labels were. It was either previous adoption, none, or a date, and then new adoption, and after tonight, whatever, and I believe, correct me wrong, Mary Ann, JA, JB, JBR-E, and JFABD, I believe we approved at the last meeting. So we've approved 4 of these, and there's a couple of different ways of doing this. For those of us who have looked at this, if you have no questions and you're satisfied with the language, we can vote all of these in at the same time. However, if you have questions either for amendments or deletions or general comments that you have, maybe they were left out for whatever reason and you think should be added in, we can do them one by one. I have no, that's up to you folks.
Dick, is the format that you're using a format that the other schools have used?
Yes, and all these labels are, in other words, JEB is you can go to almost any school, Acton, Boxborough, you can go to Duxbury, and you'll find a JEB.
So when I look, for example, at, let's say, JBR, this is a standard format that other schools use as
Yes.
a collection of pupil information.
Yes.
And the reference, which is actually, I picked one that doesn't have a Massachusetts general law, so I'll go to the one before, where we have a legal reference, and then we have whether it's been adopted or not. So this is not something new. This is just a pirating set sometimes of what,
I pirate when I have to.
okay.
Otherwise, I keep good language that we have.
Okay.
Any other comments? Chris?
So I guess my question still, and I don't know, like the formatting, like when we've had the policy before, there's been like 1, 2, 3 and subpoints and things like, I find it very difficult to read without those, and I don't know if they're going to appear back or they're not, or...
Well, this isn't a final copy until you say yes. So in terms, for example, on the JBA, you might see bold print on prohibition of harassment, definition of harassment, definition of sexual harassment, and the rest of it would be normal font. So I'm not sure, of course, I've been so up to my ears in this, I can almost recite it in my sleep.
So I guess the question is, so there's two separate things, is what I'm hearing. And it's, one is the language is kind of what you're speaking to. Are we okay with what's written? That's the first part. Second part of it is, if I'm going to search a policy like JBA, is it clear, are there subsections, and are those delineated somehow?
I think a clarifier though, I'm sorry to interrupt. Would this be in the table of contents? For example, if you went to prohibition of harassment with the subsections, would that be in the?
Yeah, there is a table of contents in here, which is, at this stage, is defunct. It clarifies what we have. It doesn't, there's nothing in the table of contents for what we do not have.
But there will be a table of contents?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
So the table of contents is just going to say JBA prohibition, JB, it's going to go down. It's not going to
Yes.
break down JBA into 3 different sections.
So if I may.
Yeah.
So I think, to distinguish the two questions, I think Mr. Hodges is presenting changes to the language as reference, and I think Ms. Redding is referring to maybe a lack of formatting, which makes it challenging to know what's a subheading, what's a bulleted item, and so forth. So the committee itself certainly can vote upon changes to the language, and then formatting can certainly be cleaned up, so it just makes it easier to read and comprehend. But I think you're, just as an example, for instance, if you look at JE, it's a student attendance policy. It would appear as though it has items, for instance, an excused absence / tardy includes, and then it has a list of items. That would be easier if those items were bulleted, for instance. Is that's what you're referring to?
Yes.
Okay. Things like that is what you're referring to.
And tabs.
What would be, what needs to be bold?
Like that.
But I also feel that what we should be approving should be what is online in our policy. So I'm not comfortable if those pieces are missing, because it reads differently.
You should be uncomfortable with 50% already being missing. That's been my point all along.
But then there were cases here where it said there wasn't a policy. If you actually go online, there are policies. So I think...
No, believe me, I have spent probably weeks, if not months, going through all the things that we have.
On our website?
Yes.
Okay, because I found ones that it appears to be a new policy because it doesn't say previous adoption.
Pentucket Regional School District policies, and they list every single one that we have, and it should be very clear if you line up all of these, what we have and what we do not have.
I believe Marie had set up a couple of database spreadsheets.
Yeah.
So it checked off.
Her spreadsheets were ingenious.
Marie, if you would like to share those with the committee, everybody could see those maybe? Okay. I think it's just sharing information.
Chair, can I make a motion subject or using Mr. Conway's clarification as a guideline that we vote to approve the language with the final approval as to the format.
So we can do a first reading and then a second reading? Maybe the first reading of the language and the second reading of the formatting? Okay. And then maybe as we move forward, we won't maybe have to do second readings for further policies and just clean up the formatting.
Sounds good.
In the future, so then there's only one in the packet, and that's the one that we approve versus going back for a second reading.
We want a consistent formatting. All subheadings will be bolded. All listed on all items in a list will be bulleted and so forth. And that, whatever that sort of agreement is, that we apply that to all those policies.
So Bill made a motion to accept the language.
I have questions on them, so are you saying that you want to accept everything here?
I said-
Or are we doing it
I said
item
that was
by
one of the
item?
options.
Yeah, just as the language, not the formatting.
But item by item, or the whole?
Well, I can read
my motion's
I can
for the
read
whole
each
thing.
one, because they're, I can read, each one of them is 13 of them.
And I can do my questions as we go through them.
But are you accepting the language as it is, or?
No, I have questions on it. That's the point of it.
So, at what point do we? Do you want to withdraw it, and they're going to go through?
I'd like to have a vote on, or is there a second to my motion, I think? But if I have a second, I think we should vote on it, just to clarify.
Okay. So we have a second to go ahead and vote to accept the language of each policy, but not the formatting, which will come back as a second reading if it's accepted as the language. And we can have I guess, there's no reason why we can't have a discussion on the reading of each one, right? To be fair. So the first one is JBA prohibition of harassment. So I have a motion to accept that policy as the language of that policy.
So if we have questions on it, when do I ask these questions?
When the policy comes up.
Right now?
If it's JBA, prohibition of harassment.
I think Bill's trying to get our attention to say something else, and Wayne has his hand up.
I'll defer to Wayne first.
I think he wants to accept all of them. This will allow for discussion on the motion because it was seconded. All of them, not for format, content, seconded, and now we're looking for discussion for all of them, not one at a time.
So as a whole.
So now,
I don't know, am I supposed to ask questions? Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm so confused right now, I have no idea what we're actually doing.
Just go through it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, the harassment policy. I distinctly remember passing some version of this at some point in time, so I'm confused as to why we don't have something.
Can you say the number, Chris?
JBA.
Okay. So what is the question again? Because we passed it before, and why are we discussing it again? Is that the question, or?
Where, I think at the end, it doesn't.
It says none, previous adoption,
Right.
none.
We've had to have a harassment policy,
we did 2 years in a row.
so I don't understand why, where that prior policy is.
Do you guys have any record of having? I just want to see Dick's looking through his book to see if we had it before. Wayne?
Yeah, Chris's memory is correct. I think we did it 2 years in a row, of which time the state almost mandated each community to take a look at the harassment policy again because the rules tightened up. So we passed it with some discussion, knowing full well we're going to get back to it the following year. So we do have one that looks, parallels what the state had at that time. So I think as a group at that time, we passed it, knowing full well we'll have the opportunity the following year to fine tune it. So that's what we should have in our records, and it almost looks exactly what the state had. And I believe that was just a year and a half ago.
Yeah, that was recent.
So if I may, I think I can clarify the issue. So I think the confusion is, we do have a current harassment policy, I can guarantee that. Its letter is not in section J, it's in section A.
A.
Under foundations and basic commitments. And I think this is where some of when we looked at J policies, there was a recognition by Mr. Hodges, Ms. Falzani, everyone that worked on it to recognize that in J, there does not exist a harassment policy, yet the district does have one. It is listed elsewhere in our policies. So when you see in J where it says previous adoption, none, that's accurate for a J harassment policy. However, there is an existing harassment policy in a separate section of the policies.
So could we, in previous adoptions, say, somehow reflect that, you know, A kind of covers the whole school system, this is the specific student, so I think somehow, because otherwise I think it looks like we never had one. How do you not have a harassment?
Want to like the cross-reference.
Okay, so that's why it says none then.
Yeah. And I think that'll come up a few times. We noticed multiple times we came across things that we recognized.
It's redundant. There's a lot of redundancy.
There was redundancy, and in cases where we thought the redundancy was not necessary, for sure, we took it out. And in other cases, there were some slight alterations. In this case, this is specific to students versus the broader harassment process.
So although this says none, we might be able to cross-reference the very thing you just mentioned.
Policy A.
So I think you have a hard time legally stating that you have a previous adoption of a J harassment policy because the district does not.
Right.
And I would just also add that there's not a, that while we have the policy there, it's ACAB, that there is no date of when we adopted that on that policy. It's just written down as ACAB. So when you click on it, it sends you to the policy, but there's no date when it was put in. So we can reference ACAB, just not when it was approved, adopted.
So should we just add a section on the bottom then as a reference?
Yeah, that's an easy add-on.
Are there any other questions on any of the other policies?
Oh, I have a whole page. Anybody else?
Reference A.
Policy JBCA. In the verification of residency, the second paragraph, I think there's like an asterisk missing because you're referring to information which is down below. Because when I was reading that, it is repetitive, but I think it's because it's...
Which one was that,
the second one, JBCA, school enrollment residency. Under verification of residency, second paragraph,
Starts with a signed affidavit.
all applicants must, well, like, that second paragraph and the asterisk down below essentially says the same thing, I think. So I think I think it should, like, it has asterisks, so where is it being referenced from? And then this is where the formatting started bugging me, I guess, or bothering me, is column A, B, and C. Nowhere does it have column A, B.
Those are supposed to be columns, yeah.
So to me, that's not like making something bold or whatever, that's actually like the integrity of the document, so
No, that's an easy fix.
But when we're looking at them on Google Docs, I see columns,
Right.
right?
Yeah, I did too.
Yeah.
Because
And
remember I had to go
highlights,
through
and
and made them.
bolds, and italics, and indents, and...
So that's where I have a problem with approving these, because this isn't how they should look. Like, I want to approve how it should look in the end. But anyways, that asterisk thing it was a question, comment, I don't know. The columns. There's also a question I had in this with regard to, it talks about if people are moving into the district and they have a purchase and sale agreement. What about on the other end of things? I feel like we need to give some leeway, like if somebody's moving in May and there's 3 weeks left, I wonder whether we should have some kind of language in there that they can finish out, or even, no matter what time, and I would say at the direction or at the approval of the superintendent or something like, I would like to see that, because I feel sometimes, we're not gonna kick a kid out in April, if they're commuting for 2 months from another town or something. So I think there has to be some discretion, for students.
Perhaps we should pull that one and put it back into the subcommittee.
ABCA language.
So we're taking that out. that correct? Yes, JBCA. We'll table that one.
I want an addendum then.
And I'll go back to before the subcommittee.
People know.
Is everybody in agreement with that?
We have to amend them. They can finish the school year.
We'll come back at the end and amend the motion. Are there any others? We have JBR.
JE, student attendance policy. When you get down to extracurricular participation, I'm trying to find I think it's on like the third page of that. The sentence doesn't make sense. Participation in an after-school or evening event will not be allowed for students and unexcused absence on the day of the event. I think, I'm not sure how it's supposed to read.
Probably should say with
Not
unexcused
be allowed for
absence.
students. Okay. And I don't know if all of these that we're doing, if we have them on the books already.
Well, the
And
one
there
we just
aren't-
talked about, the last approval was November 15, 2011.
Right, no, but like,
Yes.
JEB and JF.
So if they're unchanged,
Rather than new adoption, maybe we put reviewed. Because I think some of the old policies said that reviewed and then the date that we reviewed them. So like this whole section, you could put reviewed at the end.
so that if it was unchanged,
Yes.
just reviewed rather
Just
than new
reviewed or something
adoption.
like that.
Well, you've already changed a word here. With.
With and, we covered the D on and too.
But that was on a new,
Two words.
That's just a grammatical correction.
Okay. So perhaps we'll table that one until that can be reworded.
JFABC, school admissions transfer students. After having read the residency requirement ones, I'm wondering why we don't just refer to that residency requirement ones for transfer students rather than going through the whole thing again.
Hang on a second. So you said JFABC, which is school admissions transfer
School admissions
students?
transfer students, like it talks about the residency requirements. I just wonder whether we should just refer to
So that's for all
that policy.
students. So therefore, if you're saying, we're discussing in this policy the proof of residency, then under the cross-reference, we have to add in
That was just a thought, that sometimes we're like coming up with a whole new set of language that refers to another policy we have.
And the cross-reference here is JLCA, physical examination of students.
There's a lot, there's JLCB, JFBB, JFABD.
Right.
So what are we adding? So what are we going to do with this one? The subcommittee.
Just want to add the cross-reference to,
Yeah, it's already there. There's about 4 or 5 of them.
But there's no cross-reference.
but is there one to the resident?
The residency policy is what she said.
I got you.
There were a couple, the JFA, BBD, BBBD, like, there's a bunch of them that, it says there's a previous adoption, but when I went online, it wasn't actually there.
I'm sorry, because you're still doing the JFABC one?
No.
Which one did you move on to?
They were making.
Brent, was that foster care a new one for us?
DD foster care.
Thank you.
I don't,
It says 2011 previous adoption.
Right.
So are we tabling? So we're going to table the JFABC, right? Okay. Which is the school admissions transfer students, until we can add another cross-reference, right? Okay, now what are you on now? Next one?
JFABDD. JFABDDD, and JFBB.
Okay, so we'll do the first one.
It says there were previous adoptions, but if you go to our online, they're not there.
Maybe it's just in a different section?
no, I think you're correct. There probably was not a previous adoption. This
Okay.
is a new policy.
Okay.
That's
So
correct.
that needs to come out, right?
Yep. kind of DD, and then 3D.
Children of military.
That is definitely a
That's
new
new,
policy.
yeah.
Yep.
But it says previous adoption.
Yeah, it looks like it's sort of
we
like a
borrowed it.
copy and
Okay,
paste,
that's
I
fine.
think, to make that work. Yep.
Okay, so you're doing the JFA BDD, we're going to remove the previous adoption date. The JFA BDDD, we're also going to remove the previous adoption date. And was there a third one?
Well, JFBB has a previous adoption, but I couldn't find it on mine, but I'm sure we have it somewhere, but maybe it's under a different section or something.
So JFBB is school choice.
Right.
So did we have a school choice policy before? Maybe it wasn't under J? Yes, we did.
And also on that one, JFBB, and this is a Greg question, it says, funds to be deposited, where it says it.
Cost of tuition. Yep.
Funds to be deposited with the city treasurer. For our district, we don't have a city treasurer, so that needs to change. Anybody find it? Because I wrote it. No, I
It's
can't.
fourth line down, under cost of tuition.
So that would be deposited into the district accounts, or how would that language? Where does the choice money come from?
BB.
JFBB,
In what paragraph we on?
cost of tuition,
Funds received from payroll will be deposited with the city treasurer.
yeah,
No, they'll be deposited with the district treasurer.
so that needs to change.
Guess we'll table that one for the second reading.
Policy JFF. Student activity account. The fourth paragraph is another Greg question. Doesn't make sense. Funds collected, deposited with district treasurer no less than weekly for random collections, and next business day for specific event collections. Does that actually take place?
I'm sorry,
The money they get into the schools, does it actually follow this policy?
they've been bringing it over at least weekly, yes. We haven't had a lot of big events.
Okay.
The occasion one would be like a dance or something like that.
Yep.
Or an athletic type of collection, and they bring that over immediately, yes.
The second sentence, no deposits may be made directly into the checking account without going through the standard warrant process.
Correct.
Deposits go through the warrant process? The warrant process?
No, for expenditure, that goes through the warrant process, but it can't get in there until it's deposited. What we've done basically is saying,
So I think that
Even though the-
sentence doesn't make sense. It says deposits,
yeah, I see what you're saying, because it also, there's a part in here about keeping checking accounts, but
and that was my next question.
yeah, we don't allow those anymore.
So-
They're allowed to do them, but
Right.
I don't.
Which paragraph are you on?
Sorry. 1, 2, 3, 4, 4.
Got it.
So it's talking about deposits being made without going through the warrant. The warrant is your expenditures, it's not your deposit side of things. So I think that sentence either,
No, but we're going through the standard, I would just call it off the checking account. No deposit may be made directly into the checking account.
So just press it without going through the
But we're-
warrant process.
Yeah. They have to come into the treasurer's office, the treasurer will.
okay, so I think that sentence then needs to change to what it should actually be.
No deposits may be made directly into the checking account,
Just stop
period.
it.
Oh, I see. Okay. Does that make sense?
Or, better yet, all deposits are made through the business office.
Right, that's what I'm thinking.
That's actually what it should say.
What the actual process is. Do we have a policy manual for the business office that should cover these things too, right? And we probably need to look at that
We do for
sometime.
federal grants, and there is one, but it hasn't been updated in a long time.
Right. But even just general business office practices, money comes in, who looks at it, who I think all those things. So I think we need to make sure that whatever is the practice is what the language is.
And there's only one left? Do you have any
No,
questions?
so still on JFF, so what Greg just said is, it's talking about these checking accounts for student activity funds, but we don't have those anymore.
No, we used to have them, and then the IRS started
Right.
clamping down and saying, anything you write as a check not going through a warrant process doesn't generate 1099s, and we're fining you all.
Right.
So I basically said, that's it. We just took all the checking accounts and canceled them all.
So I think anything in this policy that talks about individual checking accounts and
Now,
even...
that doesn't mean someone else other than me may think it's a wonderful idea, or have to reinstate them. But Yeah, they want to go with the IRS, they're more than welcome to. I have no desire.
Because I think even when down below, it talks about the maximum balances in the different checking accounts.
Yep.
We just take that all out.
Well, but I think you want the maximum balances in the, what do you call it, the line items, the
Yeah.
student account, because it's in the big Pentucket.
Yeah, it's in the trial balance. Yeah, we maintain the bottom parts because that's, again, these are supposed to be in and out accounts.
Right.
So they shouldn't be a big balance. The only one that really carry a lot will be the high school because they collect money over a period of 4 years as the students are paying their dues to get to the senior year for all the fun and games, they get the money full out. So that one there will always have to have a little bit more.
But I think for the policy purposes, this
Yeah.
needs to,
Like I said, this is,
I think this
It's not
policy
illegal
is how
to-
it used to be done. It's not done this way
No.
anymore, so I think there needs to be more.
but it's, again, it's not illegal to have them. I don't like them because the IRS doesn't like them. It doesn't mean, I'm sure most schools still have them. So you'd be creating if you want to create the policy the way I do think, that's fine, but let's say the person that may follow me may say, oh, this
But
is
then we
fine, I
can
want
change the policy to
You
reflect the
absolutely
new
can.
practices. I think
Right.
it would be better to have the policy be the way that we actually run things.
Absolutely fine.
So,
So you'd like basically take out anything after authorizes student activity accounts down to the maximum balance. That all that should be
So you
gone.
want to take out the statement, and I'm going to read line by line. Authorize the student activity checking account for the use of principals with specific maximum balances established for each school by a school committee vote. All checking signing will be done by building administrator. The maximum balance, so we're taking all this out.
Yep.
The maximum balance in each school checking account shall be Sweetser School,
we're
$2,500.
taking it out, we're getting rid of it, right?
He's reading what you're going with, yeah.
Yeah. Donahue, $2,500, Page, $5,000, Bagnell, $5,000, middle school, $10,000, high school, $50,000. So that's all being
That you'd eliminate all of that.
removed, right? Now, are we keeping the next section?
Yes.
Okay.
But I think you get rid of the including checking account balance piece of that.
In the part in the parentheses.
Okay,
The
so we
maximum
moved-
balance in each
so it's
school's
gonna-
activity fund shall be.
Okay, so we're going to remove including checking account balance wording, verbiage. Does the rest of this read okay?
So then, below that, it says, states that monies, like, that doesn't make grammar sense to me. And the same thing,
States have said that.
and even further down,
No.
requires that, should the fund balance, like,
I'd have to look at the computer.
yeah. I think those need, that doesn't make sense to me. Do you get what I mean?
It
Like,
refers to
what
some
states that?
kind of
What requires
statement
that?
monies for classes that, I agree with you about the wording of it.
Okay.
That monies for classes that have graduated cannot be kept.
Right.
So,
Just
So what
take
states that?
out.
Yeah.
And just start it with monies.
Or that might be the
It's
formatting
like something
thing.
got deleted.
Or deleted, or it's a bullet, or it's, I don't know, something.
no, it's not a bullet.
Okay.
Okay, so what are we going to do with that one? So when we bring it back?
I crossed out states that
Relook at.
Okay.
and capitalized monies.
What's the rest of that read? Good? Okay.
And then the last one, the hazing policy?
So we're not tabling JFF? We are tabling JFF. Okay. We'll just go back for a second. Yeah. Those amendments, so JFI, CFA, hazing.
This is kind of a general question. Why do we have fines and penalties and like, isn't that like we don't fine the kids? We don't put the kids in jail? Like, I'm not sure.
Dick,
So-
are you saying that hazing is a crime?
That's what they,
I know, but why is that our policy? Why isn't our policy,
well, the specific, the
students-
consequences of any of this, it should be in everybody's handbook.
well, I know, but we don't impose a fine and we don't impose prison and stuff. So,
Well, it actually starts out saying whoever is a principal, organizer, or participant in the crime of hazing, blah, 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 blah.
but we're not fining them $3,000. The state will, if they're.
I'm hearing you
So
say is-
So I don't know where this came from.
Does it say that we're fining
No, the
them?
first paragraph says that. Shall be punished by a fine of not more than $3,000 or imprisonment in a house of correction. Like, we don't
Yeah, because we're
impose.
pulling her out of.
Well, it's copying the law, 269, section 17.
But if it's our policy, shouldn't our policy say, if a student is found guilty in the Massachusetts Court of Law of hazing, or define hazing, or,
Well, you see, that's what I thought this opening section was, to provide a definition of hazing so that there's no question.
So maybe quotation marks, and at the end of the quotation mark, after imprisonment, you could cite Mass General.
but then it doesn't say what our policy is. What is our policy? Like, we are not the judicial branch, we are not the law enforcement branch. What do we do as a school? Do we
I
suspend the
think
kids?
that's in your handbook. That should be in the student handbook, not in a policy.
Need to reference something, because there's nothing referenced on that.
Well, to me, this doesn't make sense.
Yeah, it actually, I feel like our work tonight actually addressed more of this, somehow or other, this overlapped
It
with,
did overlap.
so I would even advise maybe striking this one from the policy, because I think when we come back next time with more J's, this will be clearer. Because I actually think we addressed this tonight.
Okay, so we're going to table the
Earlier this
JFI CFA.
Well, it sounds like we're going to cross it out.
Well, we're going to remove it from now. I think we'll address it. In our subcommittee meeting earlier, we
Gotcha.
addressed hazing, and it was more comprehensive. So this is one of those that I think one of the districts had it labeled with a different letter than what we did, and therefore it appeared one place, and then when we continued to go down, we recognized there was more to it.
But I would think that the intent of the district's hazing policy should be not what the law is, but what our policies in the district are.
What I was telling Brent,
If that makes sense.
we almost need a preamble just to make people aware that these are Mass General statutes. You have the preamble there ahead of time saying that Pentucket, we follow blah, 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 here's what the Mass
The
General.
last time we had hazing at this school, there was no understanding of the law,
But we do not implement the law.
and I don't want to implement the
But you
law.
can identify to your public, to your teachers, principals, parents, administrators, whatever, what the law is, what is defined as hazing.
So then you should say,
Preamble.
we will provide all student athletes with the law regarding hazing. But I don't think our policy should be the law.
So we'll
Because I think what you're getting at is all this information may be best served in a handbook and a code of conduct rather than the policy.
Right. Our policy will be to follow Mass General law with regard to hazing, and our, follow-through of that will be the student is suspended, whatever.
I have no problem moving this into the handbook at all, because I'm not sure that this is in the handbook.
It is in the handbook. Yep.
This exact,
Yes.
okay.
Okay, so I'm going to make an amendment to the vote. Friendly amendment? To Bill's. So instead of accepting all the ones that we just discussed, the only ones that we are going to be voting on tonight, and I eliminated those that are all up to be tabled to be discussed another time for second reading. We're going to be voting on the verbiage of JBA, which is prohibition of harassment, JBR, collection of pupil information, JAB, policy on entrance ages, JF, school admissions and residency, JF, BBA, interdistrict choice program. So can I have a motion?
Can you read it again? I missed one.
JBA, JBR, JAEB, JF, BBA. JEB, which is policy on entrance ages. So can I have a motion to accept those policies?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, or any discussion? Okay, all in favor?
I'm abstaining because I had so many comments, I don't know if I had comments on those ones that you just said.
I know you didn't, because I noted them all down, but that's fine. Okay.
That's on the content, not the format.
Right. Okay. So the next item on the agenda is overview of summer courses. Brent, you speaking on that one?
Sure. Just as a brief update, I think the committee, at a prior budgetary session, we eliminated funding for summer courses, and the high school here had offered a variety of summer courses for students to take for credit, and it helped them in a variety of ways loosen up their schedule. In our budget, we did not have the funding to be able to do that. It's sort of an extra component. Through some discussion, both with Mr. Seymour, Dr. Rulin, and Mr. Kelly as well, trying to figure out a variety of sort of issues. One of the things that came up was the writing lab in particular, which is a requirement that freshmen take here at the high school. And in that discussion, we thought it might be best to offer up to 2 sections for incoming ninth graders to take during the summer. The problem being is how do we necessarily fund that? So we've made arrangements, figured out that we'll be able to offer 2 sections in the summer. What it does is it frees up for those students who are able to take it in the summer, it allows them to make sure they get to some other elective classes that they may need. In order to fund that, though, we'd be seeking to charge a fee of $150 to help sort of offset the costs. The district will probably still bear some of the costs of this, but fairly minimal in the balance of it all, but the $150 in order to take that class. And then they take it in the summer as they have in previous years. And we think that's probably the fairest way to go about it. It gives kids an opportunity to do that. If they cannot pay, there is the sliding fee, the sliding scale, the fee structure that we would apply, basically, I think the same structure as athletics. Greg, is that correct?
Yeah, I'll use the state sliding scale form.
Same fee for anyone who can't afford it. And the reality is no one is required to take it in the summer. The class, we will offer multiple sections of it in the school year as well, both in the fall and in the spring for freshmen. So it's certainly not a requirement that students take it in the summer. So if you can't or don't want to expend the money either, even if you wouldn't necessarily qualify for sliding scale, you take it during the school year. So it's an opportunity to provide options for kids. We're only, at this point, going to move ahead with the English. We used to offer some other classes, and that was eliminated in the budget because of the scenario we were in, and that's what we'd like to move forward with at this point. So I think we did send some information out to 8th graders who are interested to see if we can fill those sections for those students. So.
Madam Chair, just wanted to ask Mr. Conway a question. Did you need the policies for JFA, B, DD, and DDD by tonight?
If we have readings on those policies at the last May school committee meeting, we'll be fine.
Okay.
So, yep.
I'm good. Thank you.
The next item on the agenda is the assistant principal's update.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. So, I'd like to thank Ms. Redding and Mr. Hodges. They were representing their respective towns, the assistant principal search. We think at Bagnell, we may have a candidate finalized by Friday. West Newbury, we might be done by Friday, it might be later. And Merrimack is still in the search process. We've not met with any finalists yet, and so if you're from Merrimack, Mr. Adams and Mr. Buell, please don't feel left out. We'll reach out to you when that opportunity comes. I will say, the last group of candidates we met with, I thought was very, very strong. So I was very happy to see that. So I think both Merrimack and Merrimack and Groveland, they had over 50 candidates that they were reviewing. So it's nice to see that kind of number. Nice to see a number that big, because it shows how much people want to be a part of this district, and I don't blame them. That's all I've got for you.
The next item on the agenda is the school building project votes. Greg, you gonna speak
Sure.
on that?
I guess we finished much as we began with the school building project. With the voluminous amount of things we have to sign and send back to the MSBA, one of those things is a legal requirement that our attorneys have reviewed the documents, and where we have some signatories where we have a regional school district, we have a chief executive officer and a superintendent of schools who is the same person. They would like us to clarify it before they do that, so they're hoping that we would mind taking these 3 little votes tonight, including the third one, which would be allowing Mary Ann to say that, certify your vote before you approve the minutes of the next meeting, so we can get that off to them, because our friends in Boston on Broad Street at the MSBA are waiting patiently for these things to be sent back, and this is the last thing we need to say, the last thing we need to sign and send back. So if you'd like, I can read these real quick, or if someone else wants to read them real quick. There's 3 separate votes. I'll read them out loud if you don't mind. The first one is voted that the superintendent for the Pentucket Regional School District, the district is hereby appointed and authorized by on behalf of the district to execute and deliver the project scope and budget amendment between the district and the Massachusetts School Building Authority and any amendments thereto, the agreement, on behalf of the district, and to bind the district to the terms and conditions of such agreement or relating to a project remedy and repair deficiencies both educationally and structurally related to the Pentucket Regional High School located at 24 Main Street, West Newbury, Mass., including all costs incidental and relative thereto, the project.
So moved.
Second.
Chris, did you say so moved? All in favor? That's unanimous. Number 2?
Second, voted that the superintendent of the district is hereby appointed and authorized by and on behalf of the district to make final binding decisions with respect to the project described in the project scope and budget agreement and any amendments thereto on behalf of the district.
So moved.
Second?
You're looking for a second.
I'm looking for a second.
Oh, second. I thought you were...
All in favor?
Is it two?
And finally, voted that Mary Ann Naffa, as recording secretary for the school committee, is hereby authorized to provide legal counsel for the committee with a certification that such a vote was taken by the committee, and such certification may be so provided prior to final approval of the minutes of this meeting.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Everybody woke up.
Thank you.
And that brings us to public comment. Nobody here. So can I have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
So moved.
Second. All in favor? Thank you.